Welcome to the podcast. We have today's guest. This is my co-host, Olivia Pate.
Nice.
And
I like
our
the clapping
guest,
things.
our
Can
guest
you give
today,
me the clapping things? Nice.
He's got to wait till I tell the guest.
No, but I want to get
You're the
clapped for.
co-host.
I know I get.
You're the co-host, not the host. The host.
Thank you.
No,
Thank
the co-host
you.
doesn't call the
Stop
shots.
Stop it.
Oh my gosh.
Stop.
It's like being with your mother. Okay. So my guests today are the Rawls. That is
Yeah.
all you have to say.
Nice. Hey, we get one too.
See that?
You have the
Two
goat,
of them.
the legends,
Love
the
them.
Walker
That's right.
royalty, Kevin Lee Rawls,
Yep.
and then the current Arabian rookie royalty,
Yep.
Lil Rawls.
Lil Rawls.
Lil Rawls.
It's not Little Rawls. Don't confuse
No.
that. It's Lil Rawls.
Correct.
So,
Lillian. Correct.
Lillian.
Lillian. Lily. She had to correct Jason a little bit.
So if you haven't figured it out already, if you're just starting this thing out, we are going to have a lot of fun today.
Yeah, we are. It's been great.
A lot of seriousness out the way. We're going to laugh and we're going to cry. It's going to be
Surely.
This
Surely.
is
I
going to be
mean,
incredible.
surely.
It's
So
going to be a roller coaster of emotions
yes,
all over the place.
we're I'll cry probably.
Oh.
So
that would be sad.
we wanted to talk today. Obviously, we have dads and daughters sitting here.
Yeah.
So we wanted to go. So our last dads and daughters went good. This is dads and daughters part 2.
Nice.
Really?
What was our last one?
It was you and I. We did dads and
Oh,
daughters.
just y'all?
It was just us.
I felt
How
like it pretty saw. It
special.
went
Yes.
pretty solid.
So this is
Nice.
dads and you're like number 2 on the YouTube. So
That's great.
I'm a big deal.
so I think it was.
big deal.
I
Y'all
think
in the
well, I don't
presence
think
of
it was because
greatness.
of you.
Nice.
I think it was the title. Dads and daughters drew them in.
No, I think it was because I was there.
We're in trouble, Kevin.
Yeah.
This is not
Yes,
good.
we are outmatched.
We're about to go crazy.
So actually, like for Kevin. I call him Kevin Lee Rawls, but he's Dr. Kevin Lee Rawls.
Correction.
So I just had to add that. So now whatever you say is now
Let's be
magnified in people's minds.
That's a lot of
It's like,
pressure.
oh, he's a doctor.
Oh no.
Uh-oh.
That'll stress you out a little bit.
Yeah. Please don't put those kind of expectations.
So honestly, Kevin, you and I'm reading The Boy Crisis. You read The Boy Crisis. Read, bringing up boys. Not necessarily talking about boys today because dads and daughters, but
I was like,
talking about the importance of dads.
oh, true.
Why are we where we're at, where the family is? How important are dads in our world today?
Yeah.
And then, I wanted us maybe to talk a little bit about, what did y'all like about how we were as dads? What were things we needed to work on? What are things we still need to work
Let
on?
me get on my chart. Nice. Just kidding.
We figured that list would be smaller. We could talk
Cons?
more about what we talk the pros. No, the pros list is the longer list.
Right.
The cons list was just like, one thing, or two.
Right. Right.
So, Kevin, starts off the importance of dads and what dads could help, with our world today.
Well, that's a huge question.
That's true.
That's a massive, like,
Huge
what's the
can of worms.
importance of dads in the families? I don't know if you can understate it.
Sure.
Let's just start there. I don't know if you can understate the importance of the man and the male role model and the masculine energy that exists in the family dynamic, and you need it to as an opposite, a balancing, of the mom and of the that feminine energy that you have, and so being able to have those two work together and cooperate and to be able to create something together that you wouldn't have separately. Right, and to maximize the strengths of each.
Wow.
I've heard it described as a marriage is kind of like like an engine, right? Like which is more important, the carburetor or the fuel valve? I don't understand.
Right.
The engines, obviously.
Fuel pump, sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Not that kind of a doctor, but you have to have each of them doing something unique and different in order for it to be an actual engine.
Right.
Otherwise, it's just a hunk of metal that doesn't work as an engine. The more alike they are, the less unique and impactful each one of the different parts can be as they work in their unique capacities.
That's a great way to put that.
And so that engine has to work, and so the man and the father takes on a very unique role in that. And it's not that it's higher or more special. It's just unique in its own way, in the same way that the mom is unique in their own way. They have to be able to work together.
Yep.
But I think men have to really understand that there is a uniqueness that is valuable, that is important, that you have to step into that role intentionally. and it's going to fight against probably some of your natural inclinations at times, but you have to lean into it, you have to step into it, you have to be intentional and realize that your presence is valuable, your presence is important, and it does ultimately make a huge difference in the lives, whether you're raising young boys or daughters, sons, daughters, they each benefit from that. So what about you? I mean, how would you describe that?
No, I think that's it. I think naturally, moms do so much better job connecting relationally with the kids. And I think dads naturally kind of go with the tasks. And they're like, I provided or whatever. And so I don't think it's that dads are more important. I think moms tend to naturally be there. And dads have to, like you said, intentionally engage. And when they're not there, I think it is hurtful. And when they are there, sometimes it's hurtful. So it's like, when we engage, how do we engage better? And I'd love for us to kind of open that discussion, because when dads aren't involved, it's obvious what happens.
Yeah, it's
no
so true.
security, no
It's so
protect,
true.
that there's an insecurity really created, a vacuum.
Right.
So when dads do get involved, how do we get better? How do dads and daughters communicate?
Right.
And so anyway.
I really like, this is not from y'all, but Jason Ross put it as it's the fourth quarter. And I think fourth quarter dads are the ones that make the most impact. And that broken down is, you go throughout your day, you go to work, you do the whole thing, and that's like getting up and getting ready for the day. That's first quarter. And then second quarter is getting there and doing it. And then third quarter is finishing out your work day and doing whatever. And then fourth quarter is coming home and it's being home with your family. Yep. And the fourth quarter dads are the ones that push harder and the ones that finish strong. And I do think that we have fourth quarter dads, the ones that wanted to be there and that push through and that want to be present in your life and that want to make an impact. So I thought that was really cool when Jason said that he was like, the fourth quarter is when you push the hardest. It's not when you come home and slack off. And so.
That's a great example. I think Jason should be here and we should leave.
Yes.
No,
wasn't that so beautifully said though? He said it the other day, and he talked about it even in relating it to being counselors. He said, and at nighttime, we do Bible stories now, and he said that's when you push the hardest. That's when you push connection the most, is when you're the most tired. The end of the week, and that's the fourth quarter. You're there. You have it. You either have the game won or you have to win the game, and so it's that fight for that moment. And so
that's great.
I thought it was a very good analogy, good way to put that.
Yeah, that's great. So Lily, what do you feel like Kevin? Because I've heard through the grapevine of Kevin that you two were very close.
Yeah.
What do you think? Because I don't know if a lot of dads and daughters, I think it's a little more on the minority side, right? The low percentage side of dads and daughters that have a good relationship.
Yeah.
What was so good about Kevin that helped you so much in y'all's relationship?
Yeah, so I don't know, so many things. It's really cool just like watching him be a dad. But I think just because, I don't know, me and Liv can agree on this, but we're the only girls in our family and we're the oldest.
Yeah.
So we're the first. So we're your princess. Like, it's true. We're your princesses.
It's true.
So I've just known that I'm so special in his eyes. And I've always, oh my God. I think I was going to cry, okay? I've just always felt his love, always. We've never had any issues. We never had any rocky roads. It's always been pretty smooth, for the most part. But I just love, like, the older I get, like, the more I can transition from being a kid to being a woman, I can see how my parents are leading and see how they're parenting me. And kind of, it's just like a different bird's eye view of how they've parented me, and it is so cool because I can be like, oh, you did this and that's why you did this and that's why you did this.
It is cool because we are the oldest. We get to see y'all parent the younger ones.
Yes.
And like, not to brag, but we're pretty awesome.
Nice.
So to see how you correct them and your thought process through that too, I think that is a really cool view that not many people have. And I do, I'm very grateful to be the oldest. It's a happenstance, not really, that's situational. But I have been able to see like, and obviously through mom too, me like asking like, why did you correct them that way or whatever? And so talking me through that process, I was like, that's so smart. Y'all are actually kind of really smart.
Know what you're talking about.
Like that's
sometimes.
Shocking.
Sometimes.
I used to call Lily all the time.
Are we recording this?
Recorded? Be sure that
we're
makes
being
it in there. Be sure that stays
That's
in
not
there.
going to get cut.
No, be sure that stays in.
But like we used to call all the time. Like, I remember like I have vivid memories sitting in the car and I was talking like, no way we can be as good of parents.
Oh, Oh,
like
we used to say when we had kids, we wanted to give them to you.
yeah, like I
And
was
say,
like
we want Kevin and
To you.
David
To
to
you.
raise
No,
our
no,
children.
to you.
That conversation happened.
actually
so real.
because it's y'all are just so smart. Y'all are both very
Yeah.
wise people as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. But looking
this is
back,
gonna come back to bite us. I can tell.
You're right. You're right.
I regret this already.
But yeah, we always talk about how much we love,
But it's
how much y'all parent us.
Oh, that's really
Yeah.
kind and gracious
Yeah,
to say.
for
It's
sure.
what's interesting also too, because you all have been, you've known us the longest,
That's true. That's true.
right?
That's
so
so
you've
true.
seen
Happens.
so much of our growth and development. You've
Yes.
observed it.
Yes.
Now, obviously, from a child's viewpoint,
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But you've seen us change, and
Yeah.
you've seen us, have certain more energy, probably,
Nice.
and then now we're shifting into now we're raising teenagers,
Yes.
but you're watching it from an older, and it's probably
Yeah.
different,
Yeah.
right? I mean, you try to be consistent, but you change as a person. As you
Right.
get older, you
Mm.
just naturally change, and you go, oh,
Yeah.
okay, may not have done that great, or may not have done this. Would like to try to do more of this, or maybe less of this. But you guys have observed that
Mm.
in a way that nobody else has, because you've known us longer.
Right.
You've watched us
Right.
grow.
That is true.
You've watched your family grow, and you've watched us parent your little brothers,
Yeah.
and you've seen that in a totally different way.
Yeah.
And so your perspective of that is
Yeah.
of us as people
That's
is
true.
unique. 'Cause
That's
we're-
true.
That's
I'm
so
a different
That's
person
cool.
than I was
Yeah.
18
Right.
years ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm a different
That's
person
so
than I
true.
was 3 years ago.
Yeah, I was
That's
about
so
to say.
true.
Right.
I'm serious.
That was what I was
Yeah.
gonna say. Is like I distinctly remember like a really cool moment of like the shift of you being honest and being like, I don't think I really know what's good. Like
Oh yeah. Oh, yeah.
I remember the shift in my mind of, oh wait, he doesn't actually know everything that's going on.
Yep.
He's just doing his best.
Yeah.
You know, like when you're young, you
Yeah.
think like you're supposed to be perfect.
Absolutely.
And you think they have all the answers because they're
100%.
supposed they're supposed
Well, they're in
to.
charge.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
they're
Your
supposed
parents.
to.
They're in
Yeah.
charge. And
They know what's
so
up, yeah.
it is it's just
Yeah,
very
I
cool
was
to see.
gonna say that there comes an age where y'all were talking to me and you made a rule or something that I didn't like, and I was like, why are you doing this? And you're like, I don't know. I just feel like the Holy Spirit is telling me to do this, and I don't know if it's right. I'm not perfect. I'm just a human, and I'm just gonna lead you in the way that I think and feel is right. And I was
good.
just like, oh. Y'all aren't perfect. Y'all don't
Right.
know what to do. You're just doing.
you
it.
don't
You're
know,
just you're just kind of living your life. You're growing up. You're
Right.
learning, just like me. And it's
Right.
so interesting. But yeah, I was just gonna say that. So
Yeah.
I'm glad you brought that up.
It is. It's very cool. It's like, oh, you're people too. Like
Right.
there is that shift in your mind.
Yeah.
I think kids either say like, oh, you're not perfect. I have grace for you.
Yeah.
Or they turn the corner and say, oh, you're not perfect. I don't have to be around you, or I don't have to listen to you or
Yeah.
respect you, or
Right.
respect that you're a person too.
Right.
I do think that kids go in one of those directions
Yeah.
or the other. of
What do you
just
think causes them to go one direction or the other? Is there anything? Is it just them as individuals?
Personality.
Is there something a
Personalities?
parent could do better to keep them from going one direction
I don't
or the
know.
other?
I genuinely don't know that answer. I'll get back with you on
Do
that.
you
Pray about that
think,
one.
do you think when dad, I know Kevin is really good at this because I've heard this from you, where Kevin is always, it's harder for me, much harder to say, you know what, I don't know everything. My personality as a
Yeah.
3, if we're
Yeah.
going to
Right.
throw the Enneagram in this
Absolutely,
thing,
yeah.
I love talking it down.
I want to look good.
Right.
Whereas
Yeah.
you are a 6, more
I'm a 6.
relational, and so you're
All-
like, hey,
all
let's
I-
be honest.
All I have is insecurities.
That's
Preach,
so
Kev, preach.
true.
Y'all are
Preach,
That's so
Kev.
true.
Like that's
Yeah.
the only thing I
Sure.
bring to the table is
Yep.
is the lack of confidence
Yeah.
in what I'm doing. But I've tried to be upfront about that
You have. You've
and
been
honest.
very
I remember
vulnerable.
when you turned 13,
Mhm.
you turned 13. I was like, okay. We sat down and we
Yeah.
said, listen, Lils, you've never been 13,
Yeah.
and I've
Yep.
never parented a 13-year-old.
Absolutely. Yep. They
Mhm.
always said that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, so we're gonna have to work through this together.
Yep.
We're gonna have to over communicate.
Yep.
We're gonna have to give each other grace.
Mhm.
You're gonna mess up. I'm gonna mess
Yep.
up. But we've got to just keep talking
Yeah.
and keep working through it.
Yep.
And as things did come up, and there were plenty of things. Like
Mhm.
it wasn't like, oh, now everything's great. Like we had
Yes.
to have some difficult
Yes.
conversations
Absolutely.
of repentance,
Yep.
of forgiveness, of grace and mercy. But I wonder if I can't help but think that when you talk about what dads, I think if you can establish that culture
Mm.
of repentance and forgiveness and of grace and
Mm.
mercy, I think that's one of the things that dads, we have some friends of ours. He describes dad as the chief culture officer of the family.
That's good.
You help set the tone. You help establish
Yeah.
the tone. If you can
Yeah.
say, hey, in this family,
Yeah.
we're going to approach each other with grace and
Yeah.
love. We're going to be quick to repent,
Yeah.
quick to forgive.
Yes.
Yeah.
We're going
Yes.
to acknowledge mistakes.
Absolutely.
But it doesn't change anything about the nature of our relationship. It just means that we're going to be walking on this path together.
Yes. yes.
So it's a little bit.
I
but
think-
that culture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
might-
Absolutely.
might play into
Absolutely.
Sure,
the kids know
Right.
what it can look like.
For sure.
That they can repent and they can come back and
Right.
it doesn't affect the relationship. If anything, it kind of gets stronger.
Absolutely.
Right.
But you
Yeah.
set that by showing it as a
Right.
dad.
That's so
you show
true.
that.
Yep.
I do think
Mhm.
there might be a difference in boys and girls too. I think that turn, because me and Lily, girls mature faster than guys, and I think it's a very mature observation to say, wait, they're not perfect. I'm
Yes.
not perfect. Therefore, we give each other grace.
Yes.
And I think a boy, that takes longer.
Maybe a little more pride.
Yes,
Yeah.
I think boys naturally have more pride.
Yeah.
And I do think it takes them longer to get there. You know, like I
Yeah,
think that
for
us
sure.
being the oldest and cultivating that and having that in our minds and being very realistic people of
Yeah.
like, oh wait, you're a loser, I'm a loser, he's a
Yes.
loser, just doing our best. You know what I mean?
Yes,
Like,
yes.
and we're just gonna love each other and be losers all together. Like it's gonna be
Nice.
great. You
Yes,
know?
absolutely.
I think I think boys and girls might have a big thing to do with it. Obviously, I mean, I know several girls who
Right.
Yeah,
aren't
and,
great.
and personality differences, like
Absolutely.
like you said as well,
Yeah.
all that's going to play into it. And so navigating all those, it just
Right.
takes a level of communication,
Yeah.
I think,
Yes.
and intentionality. So
I think certain personalities need more communication.
right.
You know,
100%.
Absolutely.
I mean, I know you being a 6 and me being a 3, if you study the Enneagram, are in a triad. To
Yeah.
be a little easier for us,
Yeah.
even if there's friction, to figure it out.
Yeah.
You know,
Yep.
and you're a 9
Same
and
with
a
a
6,
6
so
and a 9.
yep.
Yeah.
Well,
My mom's a 9, so
yeah.
it's crazy. Yeah.
I would say too what y'all were talking about earlier about how like you're really insecure and you were really prideful and I think the moments that we're remembering having that moment was when your pride turned to humility.
Wow.
And your insecurity turned into humility. And when y'all were able to say like I'm not good here or
Yeah.
I'm whatever or like I'm not always right or I'm not always perfect. And I distinctly remember in our moment Kevin's name was brought up. You know, he was like,
yeah.
Kevin says that their family. No, I'm not kidding. Like around our dining room table, he was like, "So I've talked to Kevin, and their family does X,
incredible.
Y, Z." And I remember thinking, Kevin's a good man. He's a wise man. You know, but I mean, there is
Yeah.
whether it's through friends telling each other whatever.
Yes.
That was our moment where it was like, oh,
Yeah.
you're not perfect. We're all trying to figure it out,
Yeah.
and I think that is very important to
Yes.
have a culture, a home of humility
Yeah.
and conversation ability.
Yeah.
well, before I start to develop a self-esteem
Problem.
Neo problem,
Real.
what are
I
some
get a big
things that
head.
looking back, you're like, I kind of wish that would have been navigated differently?
Oh, let me think.
I know.
What are
We're on
things?
good
yeah,
terms now.
yeah. But
Talk
what,
to me 5 years ago.
you know, because hopefully y'all are taking an inventory and saying, I, as a parent, I want to do this a little different. You know, I want
I
to
can't
do,
think of much.
you know, now I know for our dynamic, we were talking last night and Rachel said Kevin was the better parent. And I didn't say it, but
she say that?
Melissa is the better
She was
parent.
the way better parent.
Melissa is the way better parent.
She was.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I
Our-
remember Melissa. I remember Lisa talking to you and saying, and you were like, and this was you were way. I don't know how young of a lad you were,
yeah,
but
she told me.
you were really young. And you said, you don't talk to moms moms and daughters don't talk about those kinds of things. And Melissa goes, why not?
Oh, Lisa.
Why not? I think we can.
Wow. Yeah.
And so
It's
Olivia was like, okay.
Yeah.
But that was at a very
Yeah.
young age, and
Yeah.
I would have never thought to
I
do
will say that is
Yeah.
important too. Like, as your child is getting older, like if my parents hadn't have told me we were able to be friends,
Yes.
then we probably wouldn't have been friends.
Yes.
And I do know way too many parents that cultivate a
stricter, more strict.
strict is the wrong word,
More like
but just
boss employee.
yes,
kind of.
that's
Okay.
exactly boss employee then to friend.
Okay.
And I mean,
friend, mentor, or whatever.
yes,
Yeah.
I know someone who it's like, I can't ever be your friend because I have to be your disciplinary forever, you know? And it's like, like,
Yeah.
and I like 100% agree with friends over authority 100%. Because when
In
you're
later
friends,
stages, obviously you're not talking about like
absolutely.
a
I'm
3-year-old.
talking about as you grow and as we like mature into like being a functioning person. Because after we're like, you know, a good person, then you become friends. But when you do that, then when you're friends, you have access to your heart. You know, when Lily says things to me, I want to know them and I want to hear her out and I want to know her ideas and her thoughts because I think she's wonderful because we're friends. And so same thing with parents. I think y'all are wonderful. I think your ideas are wonderful. I think, and obviously there are things that I would change or not, but you just have so much more access with your friends.
Here's a better question. What do girls need from their dads?
Wow.
What do girls
To
need
be
from
there.
their dads? Okay, good.
Is presence enough?
Stability.
Is just literal? Is like your physical presence around the home? Is that?
It's a
enough?
lot.
It's
a
about
lot.
70%.
It's a lot, yeah.
I would say it's over half.
You mean like dinner table?
Oh, yeah.
Just being there.
Just
Being
be
there
in
at
the
night,
conversation.
Yeah.
Yes, just being there
'Kay.
and just for girls, I think just telling them how they feel and just being like, hey, like this is random, but I love you.
Yeah.
And just always being honest with them and just like telling them how you feel.
Love. That's a
Like,
big one.
Like just telling them that you love them. If you're there at the dinner table and at night you tell them that you love them, that's a lot.
That's big.
It's a lot, especially in the day and age when parents are just not home. They're just working or they're gone for months and months on end. Their parents may tell them they love them, but they're not there. So I feel like it's, you know what I mean? You can text your daughter that you love them, but when
and
you
that's
look
what
at their
girls
eyes
want.
and say, hey,
Yeah.
I love you, from a father
Absolutely.
figure, that is massive. That is huge.
That's the desire of a woman's heart is to
Yeah.
be loved,
Yeah.
to be noticed.
Yes.
And so if you just know, like, it doesn't even take much.
Yep.
Because moms feel a lot of that
Yes.
in between stuff.
Yes.
But from a dad's perspective,
Yes.
I think that love is so important and
Yeah.
noticing them.
Yes.
You know, there's a lot of girls who
Yeah.
just want to be noticed. And I
Yeah.
think that that's from a lack of male in the home.
Yep.
Mm.
Yep. Yeah. And they
Just
try to
dads
look
being
for
too
it.
busy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Just able. You were always able to do things or to figure it out. And,
Yeah.
you know, we went on some dates. We do something. We shop for mom together.
Sure.
And those are little.
Yeah.
Me and Lil aren't even talking about, you gave us $100 every
Yeah.
month. Like,
yeah.
we loved when you did. We're literally
For
just
sure.
talking about
Just
availability.
little things, yeah. Like,
good.
For sure. When I was growing up, all my friends, their parents, their dads, their moms were there, but their dads would were gone for
Yeah.
months and months on end. And I was like, I got to say that my dad came home for dinner,
Yeah.
and he sat at my dinner table, and we did highs and lows.
Yeah.
You know
Highs
what?
and
I
lows.
loved going to your
hilarious.
house and doing highs and
It
lows.
was incredible, and I get to say that, and all my friends were
Yeah.
like, no way. And you know what? I can see the difference in their life and my life now through that. I can see, Maddie K's calling me. I can be like, oh, okay. You know, it's
Yeah.
different. I'm going to
Yeah.
text her.
I love it. No, I'll shoot her. I can shoot her a text. I've been
Can you?
texting. No,
Yeah.
go ahead. Keep going.
Responsible.
This is really good.
Okay. Where was I?
That your dad came home.
Just the
That he was
value
there.
of
You just went to
being
work
present.
and you worked, which is great. And you went to work, but you always came back. You always came back home at night. And when I
Yeah,
was
not
younger,
enough
you
days.
tucked me in. And when I'm older, you still came in my room, you knocked on my door and said goodnight. Or I used to come up to y'all's room a lot when I was at home. I would just come and sit on your bed for hours at night. So just being there is a huge thing for a girl, specifically for a girl.
For girls, I think it's very important. And, like, for dads to have the mindset of, like, who would I want my daughter to marry, and can she compare me to him?
Yes.
Would she want him to be just like me?
Wow.
And I think, like,
Poor Ethan.
The standard,
No,
the
but
standard's
really,
just
like-
unreasonably high.
He's trying to be a Mustang and
bar
everything.
is unreasonably high. Poor thing. He'll never compare. But I'm just kidding. But you know what I mean?
He won't
like,
listen to
for
this, I'm
sure.
sure. So.
because dads,
Yeah.
they're always like, well, I'll kill him
Yeah.
if he tries to date you or whatever. And it's like,
yeah.
well, yeah, but like,
Yeah.
you know, like that,
Yeah.
because men have that protection over
Yep.
girls. But like, are you walking in the spirit of,
Yes.
would she want a man just like me?
Yes. Yeah.
And I
And
think
I-
that's a
yeah.
bigger deal than.
And I find myself thinking that way a lot lately. Like within the last year, I would see a guy and I'd be like, oh, I like this feature, and I'm like, oh my God, it's my father.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my gosh, I gotta like take a step back, and I'm like, this is Kevin, this is my father. And people always have been like, you want to marry someone just like your dad?
Yeah,
But it's real. It's true.
It's true.
It's true. Isn't that funny?
And I think they either go one way or the other. It's like,
Yeah.
I want one just like my dad, or I don't want anybody like him.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And I think,
Absolutely.
again,
Yeah, for sure.
Lily
always
must
two
have been
ditches.
walking through the weight room and saw these
weight
guys
room.
working out. That's like my dad. That's
I don't
what
know
it
that we're
was.
talking about physically.
I think
my
that,
bad.
I think it does speak to, though, there's this natural inclination for men to want to provide, right? And
Right.
they're working because
Right.
they love their family.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And they want to provide for them, right? And they know that they have to have food and they have to have clothing and shelter. And so it's
Right,
not
yeah.
like they're not working out of a neglect. It's a desire to provide. But I think we can also think of there's provision doesn't just take the place of money, right? There is this psychological and emotional and cultural, relational provision that also should take place, that the men should also lean into and try to establish that, in the home. Here's the proper way for you to, to think and to act, and I'll do my best to show you that.
Right.
So that there comes a point when you become an adult,
Yeah.
you're going to be the one making those decisions, and
Yeah.
you need to have the tools to be able to
Yes.
navigate that yourself. You're not
Yes.
always going to have me, and my job is to help prepare you
Yeah.
to not have me.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, for sure.
And so you're literally working yourself out of a job.
Yes,
That's what you
that's
should
true.
be doing is preparing them.
Mhm.
And so
Not enough parents do that.
yeah, for me personally, I've never quite understood the nobody's dating my daughter till she's 30. I've never
Kevin wants me to get married right now.
That's never connected with me.
No.
I've why would you not want them to follow the Lord's leading and
Right.
guidance in their life
Right.
and their calling, if they're called to that?
Or lead their own life.
Yeah, and to establish their own, follow God's calling on their
Wow.
life.
Right.
Let them go do that, and to prevent that because of
I think you can get in either ditch, right? Where you're like, you're not dating until you're 30, or I don't care who you date or whatever. And
right.
you know,
'Cause it
for
matters.
us, yeah, we
Sure.
we wanted you to know we care. Hey, what do you like about this guy?
Right.
What do you like about this Ethan Ross guy, or whoever the other guys were that were better than Ethan, who were in that we would ask those questions, and so we were on it, but we wanted her to begin to make these decisions, and I think as parents we don't want them to mess up,
Yeah.
so we're trying to prevent them from making all decisions, which actually cripples them
Right.
in the process.
That's such a big thing, and hearing y'all say that is crazy because I've always wanted to be a mom. Me and Liv have always wanted to be moms.
Yeah.
I'm always with kids. I work with kids. I just love my brothers like they are my children. So I feel like the Lord has given me like a motherly heart. So hearing you say that and knowing that when I have a kid or even the kids, you know what I mean, in the future.
Yep.
I have to wake up every day and submit them to the Lord because they are not mine.
Oh, we talked about it in the car on the
They
way
are the
here.
Lord's. And hearing that's hard. Like my heart is pounding right now because like I'm a controlling person. I have bad control issues, and I'm like I already love the kids so much right now that I don't have.
Yeah.
Right.
And hearing you say that about me, like
Crazy.
First of all, it makes me feel like you trust me.
Yeah.
Because you prepared me enough to send me out your door. But also like you woke up every day since you've had me for like 19 years and said, Lord, Lily is yours, Harrison is yours, Jefferson is yours, Theodore is yours. You gave us to the Lord, and watching you do that now, like we said, like looking back on how you parented us, you submitted your children to the Lord in this crazy world. Like that is so hard.
Yeah.
Like just hearing you, it's hard. I know how hard it is for y'all. I mean, I can't like imagine, but I know the half of it. I can tell the
True.
half of it,
True.
And that is not an easy thing.
Yeah.
And
Trust.
that's a lot of trust in the Lord.
Trust is a big one.
That's
It's
wow.
tough. We were talking last night,
were?
and my wife she is the better parent. She wouldn't say she was. She would say she's not. She is. We were talking about how it's almost impossible for anyone to I guess give parenting advice. It's really hard for somebody to teach parenting because if they're young enough, then it still is. You're not really sure.
Right.
The jury's kind of still out. We'll see. But by the time they get old enough, and you're like, okay, they did it right. Their family is still all loves each other,
Right,
and
right,
is
right.
getting along and is on speaking terms, which is that in
Right,
of itself
for
is
sure.
huge.
Yeah.
The culture has changed so much by that time that any young parents are raising kids in a different world
Yeah.
Right.
than they were raised in.
Yeah.
So you guys are gonna, I mean, it's great you appreciate that how you're raised, but you're gonna have to find you're gonna have a different world.
That scares
Yeah.
me.
Your kids are gonna be in a different world than we
That's
had. Our
true.
parents, my parents did not have the internet when I was
Yeah.
growing up,
That's wild. Yeah.
and so now we have to navigate.
And I was 20 or 21,
Oh,
when it
yeah.
really became a thing.
Yeah, so our parents, they were done by the time all that stuff came around. So we had to navigate that now as parents. Social media, all these kind of things, and trying to stay and trying to parent through that is difficult. But you guys will have another set of challenges that you'll
Yeah.
have to be ready for. And so having these, it's really tough. I guess
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's tough to be
Yeah.
able to find, okay, here's how you do it, because by the time it bears out and by the time the results of that style or your culture that you established in your home plays out, everything has changed. So
Yeah.
you guys are going to have to find that what's that next generation
Yeah.
of parenting look like? What is that
Yes.
next, what's it going to look like to raise kingdom-minded kids
Wow.
in the next generation? Because the
Yeah.
world needs, kingdom-minded
Yeah.
leaders and young people.
Yeah.
So true.
And y'all are going to have to figure out how to do that. And
Yeah.
it may
Yeah.
look similar, but it's going to look different in a lot of ways too.
Yes.
So
I will say as well, we have mentioned a lot, but it is very important. Your spouse is also very important. Like you choosing mom and you choosing Rachel, like they're very, because we've mentioned them a lot too, but like you can't just carry it. We are talking about dads and daughters,
No,
but
no.
it is very, very important to have both. And like iron sharpens iron. Y'all have always
Yes.
been very sharp people.
Yes.
And so in the culture today, you two
Yes.
have been able to figure it out together.
Yes.
So that is very important. I just felt like dropping that one
Yeah,
as
that's
well.
A lot of late night conversations.
Yeah.
Wow.
A lot of different perspectives coming at
Right.
it,
Yeah.
For sure.
And, Kevin and I have talked about, and I don't know if we want to use the word vaccine, but inoculation, the V word, that has become very
Yeah, it's
taboo
politically
today.
charged.
Yeah, you just split people into two camps right there.
that's right.
Wow. Yeah.
But to inoculate, which basically means to give a small dose of the virus, right? And so how as a parent, because if you
Right.
if we completely kept you live
Yeah.
away
Yeah.
from everything, then when it's all right, now be on your own, you're like, oh my goodness, what is all this out here and how do I
Right.
navigate that? Because,
Yeah.
I had people that were like, I can't believe you did this or did that, or she
Yeah.
got to use her phone. And we were like, we're trying to figure it out, but we
Right.
know we're about to launch her out
Right.
into this thing that
Yep.
she better be ready for.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's not easy. I don't know that there's a right and wrong. I don't know there's a right way to do it. I think you're wrong. Are you wrong no matter how you try it?
Yeah, I think some of it is it's just the intentionality of that.
Right.
If your mindset is focused on I'm gonna prepare them, I've got to get them ready for this.
That's all I knew.
Yeah,
I gotta get
then
them ready.
That will kind of guide, and because there's gonna be personality differences.
I was about to say it depends on the kid.
Yeah.
because
That's another
they're gonna
thing
have
y'all
different
taught me.
strengths, different weaknesses.
Yeah, about
and
parenting is every kid is different. You can't parent the same way. And you have 4 of us. And that's 4 different. It's like you're starting over with each one of them. And y'all just
Yeah.
have 2. And it's just like you're starting over. And it's like you said, you're growing with us. You're growing with each one of them in a different way at the same time.
Crazy.
Y'all, that's crazy.
That's crazy.
Hard, dude.
Blows my mind.
But yeah, so it just, every kid is different. So you have to navigate it through the kid. And that involves getting to be intentional and know your kid. And be like, okay, let's figure out how your brain works at this age, and then this age, and then this age. So
Yeah.
you can figure out how to protect you and grow you and nurture you and kind of start sending you out the door.
Yeah.
So that's also super hard. Gosh, parenting is hard.
Yeah.
Man. Oh my God.
I don't know how y'all did
I
it.
don't know how y'all
We
do
turned
it.
out really freaking good
Yeah.
for y'all to be
Yeah.
kind of, sort of, okay, good. Like, come on. We're kind of so awesome.
That's so funny.
hilarious.
It's a miracle.
It's a miracle.
It
Get
is.
me.
It is. I think it's in spite of us.
Me and Mom
In
went,
spite of you.
we were on a vacation the other day, and I was like laying on the bed, and I was like, do you ever just look at me and think, like, you created that thing? I was like, does that blow your mind that, like, I'm, like, the greatest thing ever, and you're just, like, looking at me like you created me? And she just, like, laughed. I didn't really, like, get a full response, and I was, like, looking for, like, yeah. But she
Yeah.
really never gave me that, but she was just, like, laughing. And I was like, no, girl, like, for real. Like,
No, girl.
does it blow your mind that, like,
that I'm here
I'm
right
like
now.
a product of you.
Like,
Like that's gonna blow my
like,
mind.
look how good I turned out.
Like,
aren't you
like
proud?
dang.
I think a lot of that verbiage came from your dad. I don't think mom taught you to say any of that.
That's funny. Nice.
The inoculation analogy is something we've tried to work towards, is because you do want them to develop the ability to function
Mm-hmm.
in the world, but too much into the system, and they, just like a virus, they can get sick.
Yeah.
So you kind of have to always be, navigating that tension between that and with each kid. And as a parent, it's hard not to project your own insecurities and weaknesses.
Hey, here's what
onto
I
them.
dealt with, so I'm going to completely stop them from dealing with that. How you do that?
Right.
And they might not even be dealing with that.
Right.
Right.
I'm majoring on something they're not even dealing with.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's not even in their life.
Yeah.
Prayer,
Right.
And that again, that's your spouse. I can't tell you. I mean, how often Rachel is like, "Hey, that's your deal. Don't project him. That's not his deal. He's not you, or she's not you."
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
And okay, all right. So then, how I'm feeling this. I feel. What do I?
Yeah.
And so she can help your spouse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You need
Yeah.
that other voice. To balance. Otherwise, it just continues to be this.
Yeah.
This greenhouse hot box
Mm.
where things can just incubate because they never get any different opinions or different thoughts
Yeah.
on it.
That's
So
true.
we grew up in legalistic church culture. They've grown up in the flip opposite
Yeah.
of that. Yeah, I know. So here I'm coming into, I don't want to put legalism in. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So they're going to be dealing with the flip opposite of, we got to
Right.
put some standards into this thing.
Right.
Yeah.
So is that not going to always be
Yeah.
the tossing of the boat?
Yeah.
And then, they will have to deal with going so far maybe into legalism,
Right.
right? And is it cyclical, like that? I wonder.
I don't. It probably
know.
it makes sense that each generation would react to the previous generation.
Yeah.
You'll respond to it. You saw it, and then naturally, as young people, you want to find your own path, and a lot of times that's going to look like trying to push back. And I didn't like the way they did this, and maybe some things do need to change, right? But I think you have to focus on the Word of God, so the Bible, that unchanging, that helps to ground everything, and provide these boundaries. But then the Holy Spirit, in the moments, that can actually help give you wisdom and guidance. So between in the community and the church that you're in, and so all those things kind of work together to help give you what you need in that moment. And for that instance, with that kid in that moment, in that instance.
Right.
And that's why parenting books are so difficult, because no book
Right.
knows that kid in that instance with that
Right.
parent. And
Right.
all three of those,
Personalities.
variables
Yeah.
that can go any number of directions. There's just not. So it just has to
Right.
be these principles.
Right.
So if, this is all great. Now, this is great if you're going to be a parent, right? Because if you're going to
True.
be a parent, you get to choose the path.
No, absolutely.
Okay. But what if you're in junior high, you're in high school,
Hmm.
maybe you're in upper elementary, and your mom or dad doesn't have the worldview of, I'm not the best parent. How do I become the best parent? Right. So how do you talk to a daughter who's like, my dad's not there and he's not ever going to be there for me? How,
I would just
because
say
that creates
pick
a
husband
neediness.
who will change one with you.
Right.
I would say.
Sure.
I would say it's up to you at this. Like, I would just be very sorry for them. Feel very sorry for them, because obviously that was something that I got to experience in my life that they didn't.
Yeah.
And I would say, but now it's up to you to choose a husband who will and who
Yeah.
will be there. You can encourage him to be that way and pray for a spouse who will want to do that with you. But that's
It's hard.
really all I can say.
How do you how do your friends navigate that? How do your friends, I think if you look in the Bible, where man sinned, God sent a substitute, Jesus, right? There's always, I think God is always trying to send a substitute where people let us down. Do you see your friends looking for a substitute dad? That father figure.
absolutely.
They run to a lot of
Is
different
that
all
is
the
that youth
time.
pastor?
Yes.
Is that basketball coach? Is that teacher?
For me, it
Is
was
that-
always my dad. They always ran
Sure.
to my family
Wow.
because
Oh.
they wanted to be, you know what I'm saying?
you.
Like it was, that when I saw other people struggling, I would always say, well, I have a good dad, and
Right.
I found them coming to that situation a lot, and being very grateful. I can think of a few people who think of that situation right now, but definitely youth pastors and families. Find a family with a solid family, because obviously you don't want to gravitate to a man in any unhealthy form or another. You can't create that with a man alone.
Right.
You can do it with a family unit, because I think that's what you're
Good.
lacking.
Right.
But I wouldn't say to run to
Yes.
someone specifically.
Yes.
I would say to run to a family you appreciate. Because if I knew somebody who didn't have a dad, I would say, well, they have a really great family. Go hang out with their kids and go hang out with them at dinner, and then you can see that. But I would never I don't know that I would suggest anybody to go run to.
What about when you have a good dad and a good daughter, but they're in conflict? How do you approach that? Because I'm telling you, there were times of conflict. I know for me, probably the coaching side, because of how I am, I'm going to fall in the ditch of Olivia's got to be perfect before I put the basketball in her hands, kind of a deal. And so that's going to be frustrating to her, especially when I didn't know she was an Enneagram 6. I thought she was an Enneagram 3. So I'm like pushing that 3,
Wow.
and she's like, yeah, I'm a 3. And Melissa's like, I don't think she's a 3.
knew.
How do those dads have those conversations? How do those daughters approach those conversations?
For me, I'm a very much let's break this down kind of a person.
Yeah,
So
me too.
I would say let's take them out to dinner and be like, here's a list of things that we're in conflict over and/or / I hate about you.
Stop.
And let's talk about it and let's figure it out, because we got to live together somehow.
That's backwards for us
Really?
because I'm a 9 and my dad's a 6, so y'all are the same.
Yeah.
So my dad's like, we gotta figure this out right now, otherwise I'm not gonna be able to sleep. And maybe think about it, and his eyes are wide open and bloodshot. And he's looking at me, and I'm like, everything's fine. Don't talk to me. I'm going in my room all the
Interesting.
time. So that's been another thing. Father has gotten to get to know me and be like,
Yeah.
okay, you're just like Rachel. I'm just like my mom, and we're the same. We're both 9s. We're really peacemakers. We don't like to talk about our issues. Hate it. It makes me. It's the worst thing in the world. Oh my gosh, confrontation. I'd rather die. I'd rather die. But we've got to work through that through the past years. My dad just being like, okay, now he knows how to deal with these two peacemaker women who are like, everything's fine.
Right.
Everything's fine is our
Ignore
favorite
all of our
thing.
problems.
Oh, ignore all of our problems. So every time something came up and it was small and it was like, you just walked out the door the wrong way and you slammed the door on accident and I didn't like it, and so I'm having a bad attitude about it. You would come to us and be like, okay, let's talk about this. Let's sit down, and I would be like, no, please, no, please, no. And you're like, nope, we're going to do it. And we did it, and it was great. And then it just grew our relationship even more. So
Well,
that's
and
so
that's
funny for
compromise
y'all.
too. And I was if it's a parent trying to go to a child,
Yes.
what does your child prefer? Are you a
Yes.
peacemaker? Okay, but we do have to figure
Yes.
out something, so it's compromise. We won't have a harsh conversation.
Yeah.
You just write down the things that you don't like or whatever form of communication that you need to have with your child. But obviously, I think people do live in everything's fine for too long.
Yes.
And I do think that y'all have that healthy
Yes.
balance, and you've been able to push that, and she's been able to push one way or another. But I think for my perspective as a child going to a parent would say, okay, let's sit down. I'll buy you a good dinner and let's talk about what we need to fix, I mean, that's my favorite thing in a relation with me and Ethan. I'm not even lying.
Yeah.
When we have it, I'm like, okay, let's have a good dinner, okay? And we'll
Wow.
meet at the place. And I'm like, all right, some things have got to change or else we cannot continue. Life, people settle for a very low quality of life
Yes.
way too much.
Wow.
In relationships,
They stay in the
life.
cycle. They stay in the cycle.
And that's not okay. You can change it.
Yeah.
I just want to look at people and be like, you don't have to live that way.
Yeah.
You don't have to live with issues. You don't have to, either you forgive them and you learn to live with them if they're not going to change. Okay, I'll lay some things down and the Lord can work wonders through
Wow.
you and through that for
That's
sure.
So true.
But I think people just settle way too much.
Yeah.
We live in a very settle culture.
Yeah. Yep. They say this is who I am,
Yeah.
and you have to deal with it.
Yeah.
Or get out.
Well, I think it's
And then they
difficult
get
to
out.
communicate.
Absolutely.
I think it can be icky. I think,
Yes, for sure.
and so I think it's easier to avoid I know for
100%.
me, it's
Yeah.
easier to avoid.
Oh, absolutely.
And, it's usually Melissa that suggests, it's usually when we're laying in bed and I'm trying to go to sleep. She's like, babe. And there's a way that she says that it's like, oh, no. This is going to be an hour. This is going to be an hour.
I'm not going to bed.
It's like, you got to say this or you got to do this. And she's like, all right, we keep doing this. We got to change.
Yeah.
She's always encouraging me to change the cycle, of what we're going through. She's like, we can't have this conversation again.
Iron sharpens
Yeah.
iron.
We need to go ahead and just be different.
Right.
Wow.
And I'm always like, okay.
Well,
and
that's cool with your spouse, but also earlier we were talking about how like the moment that he really changed was with you, like through you and that conversation. And I think that having friends is so very important too. And I always like to talk about that
Yeah.
in all my podcasts that I do. But I got Kev on that one. But you know what I mean? Like I do think it is so important to have healthy friendships because iron sharpens iron,
Yeah.
not only in marriages, but in friendships and relationships of any kind. Me and Lily, I sharpen every day. I mean, we just sharpen because we're just great. But with parents as well, get other couples that are also going through the same phases and the same things. The Lord sends those people for you in the times. And I'm gonna relate it back to my Esther. You're such a time as this girl.
Yes.
But we talked about that.
And that kind of goes. I think that points back to what we originally started talking about. Is like is guys and the role that guys play. Sometimes guys, men, family fathers, we tend to think that we have to just be the lone, the lone ranger out there, just chopping down the trees ourselves, and making that pathway. I don't think you can understate the importance of a good community when it comes to raising a family.
For sure.
The people that you surround yourselves with.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
I realize I need to show my daughter and my sons, here's how you have healthy relationships. Here's what they look like. And they look like, my friend David, and that we get together every year and we go and spend time together and we sharpen each other, we talk to each other on the phone, we bring our problems up, we admit wrong, and that starts there. And then that allows you, like you said, to have a community, a tribe of people who are working towards the same things that you're working towards. And they, just like an extension of your spouse, they can see your blind spots. They can help account for
They'll call you out.
Yeah, they'll call you out and call you up.
Yep.
That's what you need to develop, and those don't happen by accident.
For sure.
You have to intentionally develop those. You have to take them to lunch and say, all right, we got a thing, we got to work this out, right? And then you can have these incredible, communities that can then feed into that family.
Absolutely.
And whenever one of you is struggling, the other can help out, and the strengths and weaknesses start to balance out, and you get this beautiful picture of ultimately the body of Christ.
Right.
Yeah.
But it starts at the family unit. Like
Absolutely.
That's where it begins, and then it starts to work its way out. But I think you're exactly right. Those relationships but I think that starts with the dads. The dads have to establish that and say, we are part of a community as well.
Right.
I have people in my life that I call. And so whenever you get in a place, you need to develop those relationships. And when you get in a place where you're, stuck, you can have people you can call and you can talk to.
Yes.
And so we're going to help establish those.
For sure.
And it'll be because we'll show you how to do it, and we'll help you get going.
Yeah.
You have family friends.
Oh, for sure.
Some of mom's.
Absolutely.
Some of mom's friends.
All of y'all's
have
friends
your number.
Are my mentors.
Yeah.
I go to all of them. There's like four or five of them. Not many, but they are the most incredible women and your friends. I have all their numbers too, because I was just like, they're just great people that are just in my community that are best friends with you and mom that I just go to for everything. Yeah. Because I'm like, sometimes I'm like, I love you and I love mom, but I'm like, sometimes I need another opinion. Sometimes I need more insight on looking in my life and in their life who know us.
Yeah.
So just calling up them and be like, hey, I have this situation. What do I do? How do I handle it? Because like, I don't want to go to my mom about this. I don't want to go to my dad about this. It's not because I don't love you guys. It's just because I need more wisdom and more eyes and more hearts and just the Holy Spirit to just work in that situation.
Isn't that so cool that y'all have cultivated friends, families, mentors for your children through your friendships?
Yeah.
I mean, again, it is so important. What if my kids one day call Lily and is like, I can't talk to mom? Like, that's crazy.
Absolutely.
That's crazy to think about. Like, all of my very best friends are my parents' children. I mean, my parents' friends' children.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah.
You?
Yeah.
Sienna?
Wow.
There's another one. whoever,
Yeah.
y'all are my very best friends.
Yeah.
I saw
Yeah.
that they are doing something right.
Yeah.
I like you guys. I like your family.
Yeah.
I'm attracted to a very strong family. You know, we
Yes.
have that in common.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, my very best friends have in common that they're best friends with their parents.
Wow. You're
And so
right.
that's so cool that y'all have cultivated that. And that's very important.
Yeah.
And also, like you were saying a minute ago, you know, your job as a parent is to work your way out of a job, and you are supposed to be a role model. Okay,
Yes.
what does having good friends look like? What does
Yep.
having a good spouse look like? What does being a good parent looks like? And
Yes.
I firmly believe that being a good parent comes after all of those things. What does being a good spouse look like? What does being a good friend look like?
That's a good point.
And then you can be a parent.
Mm.
People flip it way too much.
Yeah.
Well, I'm a good parent. Well, I'm a good parent. Well, how? How do you know?
Yeah.
You're not asking so and so. You're not iron sharpening iron.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Too many
Yeah.
people have it reversed. You know,
Right.
I can only be your parent. What?
Right.
We
Right.
can't be friend. Like, you are cultivating a friendship. You are showing them whatever. And so I
Yeah.
think that is, y'all have always
Yeah.
prioritized you two first.
Yeah.
And
She's my
that's-
bestie.
yeah, I mean, like, that's awesome. I
Yeah.
can't wait to have a best friend like that. And
Yeah.
then raise it, because y'all are forever. You two are forever together. We are temporary. And I think too many parents can't stand that thought of like, you're working, obviously, you'll have us always. I hope that that's a good friendship. You know, I'm not just like,
We
oh,
will
kids
visit-
are temporary.
We will visit every once in a while.
You know. But you know what I mean? It's like, I will have you forever. You're my
Sure.
best friend. You're the one I'm choosing. You're the one that I'm choosing to role model to my kids about what the Lord looks like. And I think that is
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
Captivating, the book, Captivating, it really put it in perspective of like what the two parts of God look like.
Wow.
I wasn't ever
Yeah.
able to fathom that
Wow.
God was both male and female until I read that book, and until I understood that of like, God is seeking after the beautiful, the nurturing, the kind spirit, the loving, the beautiful part of God, and then men are the strong and and I was never able to visualize that until I read that book. And I think that parents are supposed to be the visual of that for their children, of what God created it to look like.
Yeah.
You read Captivating and Wild at Heart.
Yes, I
right?
read both of them,
Yeah.
and I felt
Yeah.
like they were both really great.
Yeah.
Solid.
Yeah.
You know, I think bottom line of what we're saying is family done right is life changing. Family done wrong is life changing.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's so
No,
true.
it's so true.
It's so true.
And I'm not saying family done perfect,
Yeah.
but family done in the right direction.
There's no perfect.
With the right
Intentions.
heart.
There is no perfect.
Intentions.
The right intentions,
Yeah.
the right heart, but family done wrong is life changing in the negative.
That's valid.
I mean, it really is. And it's just so important that no matter where we're at, that we work towards fixing that.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah.
Wow.
And go ahead.
Well, I think intentionality,
Yep.
humility,
Yep.
and community.
Mm-hmm.
You know, those are the things. Like I was to kind of point out some of those,
Yeah,
those
that's
things,
powerful.
because it's always changing, because all people are always changing. Situations are all different, and you have to be able to adapt and adjust and have some kind of a way to navigate through those things. That's just like with in any relationship. You're just like, we're going to figure this out. We're going to work through this, and I'm going to change if I need to. I'm going to bend. I'm going to work this. I'm going to be honest, and I'm going to show you what that looks like without advocating the responsibility that I have as the parent.
I know for Melissa and I, at a young age, we got a vision for family. And I think we're being pushed today to get a vision for self.
Oh, for sure.
Do you think people at 16, 18, it's all about you, and so we grow up all about me, and we never think about family until you're almost kind of in one. It's like, now, I hadn't even thought about this 'cause I've been so big on planning myself. I mean, you agree with that statement?
Yeah.
That's pretty big. You know, even a lot of times you see, I think sometimes I've seen it, and it starts, I think, with the marriages. Sometimes whenever people come into a marriage thinking that this is my path to my self-fulfillment, this will fulfill this is part of me fulfilling and accomplishing my life goals,
Wow.
is me being married. And so now I can check that
Right,
off.
right.
And whenever it's inevitably difficult, or you have to change or adjust, that becomes that much harder. And whenever you come into it with, this is my this is a responsibility to serve
I'm stepping onto a team.
Yeah.
that I have. Yeah, I'm stepping into something that's bigger than I am.
Yes.
That I'm gonna have to. That's gonna change me.
For sure.
And I think as a parent, it's the same thing. It's a responsibility. It's a calling. It's a vocation. This is not about you, living your best life and you becoming something, unless what you want to become is less selfish and less, less make it, not as much about you.
Yeah.
I don't think that we're always really well prepared for that. Self-sacrifice is usually not on the list of things we want to learn about.
True.
Not at 17, not at 18.
We don't set that. We don't set that as up. I want to be much more self-sacrificial this year.
Right.
It's usually about accomplishing some type of a achievement, a status of some kind. But realizing that the pathway to effective relationships, both marital relationships and parenting relationships, is self-sacrifice and humility and a responsibility to the institution, to the relationship that God has called you to. And when you think about that, Christ, he displayed that for us. He modeled that for us. When it says he didn't, when he came down, he humbled himself. He didn't think, that his, he put aside his role there and came down and humbled himself like us. He set that up so that he could redeem his people. He could get that back. That lost relationship, it cost him something, and we don't really like the idea of that, though.
Yep.
Right.
In our time, but that's ultimately what it does.
That's it. And I think it's so important that y'all are getting a vision now. I know from Lisa and I know even being around Kevin when we were in college together, is that we were starting to talk about this kind of stuff. But if at 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, if we're just talking about self and what I'm going to do and who I'm going to be instead of what I want to start a family and build.
Yeah. Cultivate. What do you want to cultivate in your life?
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good stuff. Dads and Daughters Part 2, huh? That's pretty
That's
good
good.
right here.
Yeah.
I think
That's
we
really
have
good.
run out of time.
That's gold.
That's powerful. dude.
And so I hope this is helpful. I hope this is helpful to
Yeah.
people, and I hope we make Ethan listen and get him
Yes.
kind of fixed a little bit.
Nice.
So.
I'll be like,
Nice.
ugh.
So thanks, the Rawls, for being on, hanging
welcome.
out.
Thanks for having
This
us.
is what we do. We just decided to record it right now.
Yeah.
But this is what we
It's
love
kind
to
of it,
do.
yeah.
Just
Pretty
sitting
great,
around.
yeah.
That's why I'm a little tired right now, because we're 2 for 2
Yeah.
up till about
Stop.
11:30 or
Aw.
midnight.
I'm jealous of that.
No one set a
Yeah.
curfew for us, so we just kept talking last
Yeah.
night.
Me and
That's
Lily
one
get
of
a
the perks of
curfew.
You didn't have
adulthood.
20
That's it.
kids in your cabin last night? Oh, man.
No, in fact, the only camper in my cabin went and stayed in another cabin, so it was just me and
Stop.
Melissa.
Stop. That's funny.
They had one in their cabin.
We had one in our
Anyway.
cabin.
Oh, y'all had one.
But he went to bed early, and the JC stayed up and talked. So.
That's great. That's great. Me and
All
Lil
right.
did too.
Just
kidding.
Yeah,
We didn't do that.
All right. Dads and Daughters Part 2. So much fun.